This is GARIS, Masculist, MGTOW flyers. That is 2 3-page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 463, part 2, entitled Refocusing Masculist Gender Politics onto the High Schools, continuing straight on. Thus, masculist leaders see clearly that an essential prerequisite for the creation of a FIP society is the fipping of women, that is, the fipping of high school girls, putting powerful moral pressure on them to FIP up or pay a very heavy price of not getting a man, which would be catastrophic for them, since young women would then be manless, sexless, loveless, babyless. And as masculinist ideas spread through their school and society, they would be spat at for being man-slaving, fluffy parasites left rotting on the shelf, rejected by men and by society for being major man-slaving gender criminals. So, in light of the above, masculists aim to put a masculist group in every high school, every college. Masculists want basic changes made to society so that men have the power, so that the divorce courts are men-fared, so that, for example, custody of kids is made automatically joint, alimony is thrown out, money and stuff is not halved, etc. Masculists want divorce courts fundamentally reformed so that they operate on the assumption that the ex-wives are FIPs, who are quite capable of earning their own living. Masculists want the para for men, so that if a man does not want to be a father, then with the para, he has the right to fill in a government paternity rejection form, so that if the woman goes ahead with the pregnancy, then she takes full financial responsibility for the costs of the kid. Fluffy feminists still see men as cash machines, which is why the masculists label them fluffy feminists. These fluffy feminists still have fluffy attitudes towards men, hence oppress men, seeing men as serving only one real purpose, that is, to serve women, to work for women, to be man-slaves to women. To masculists, man-slavery is slavery, and hence a moral abomination, a war issue. That if the gender laws are not soon men-fared, then masculists will pick up arms and go on a sex war, killing thousands of fluffy feminist divorce court lawyers and judges. And if the sex war really heats up, go out into the streets and kill large numbers of fluffy feminist hypocrites who so abuse and rob millions of men in the hated fluffy feminist dominated divorce courts, destroying the lives of one father in 4. So masculists, politically minded masculists, have a political program, a manifesto of what they want to do to create their vision of a FIP society in which masculism would no longer be needed. Certainly, one of the major platforms in that masculist program is the fipping of high school young women, since that is the root cause of the problems afflicting men, as seen by the masculists. So masculists want to install a masculist group in every high school so that young men are in a position to apply tremendous moral pressure on young women to FIP up or be threatened by these young male classmates with manlessness, with utter social and sexual rejection. As masculist ideas spread through the culture, young men will be strongly influenced by masculist ideas and not want to end up like their fathers, uncles and older male friends who were financially crucified and had their lives ruined in the hated monoconscious fluffy feminist dominated divorce courts. So they look at their female classmates with a very cold eye, asking themselves if this potential girlfriend is a fluffy or not. Has she chosen to study fluffy crap, making her a fluffy crapper? Is she going to expect to parasite off my money, since I plan to be an engineer And she plans, with her history and literature majors, to work in a human resources department of a company, making 3 times less money than I will. So when there's a divorce, if I'm stupid enough to marry and have kids, she will take me to the hated, fluffy, feminist-dominated divorce court system and crucify me financially. Fuck that, and fuck her. Or better still, no one fucks her, because she's a manslaving, fluffy parasite, vermin to me. She can rot in hell. I'll give my affection and penis to my other girlfriend candidate. She's a FIP and studies career competent majors and plans to make good money. She looks down on the fluffy crap majors and expects to toughen up and be a real careerist, since she's had her masculinist consciousness raised too. She's not such a monoconscious feminazi like so many of the other girls in the class. She's a better option for me because she does not expect to be a manslaving parasite off my money and my study effort. I will not tolerate that some hateable bloody fluffy expects to parasite off my talent and effort to get a well-paid job by getting a good career competent education at high school and later at college, so I can be well paid as an adult. To hell with fluffy manslaving vermin. They can rot on the shelf. But to be practical, for masculist leaders, how to set up a masculist group in every high school. That is, how to make this the focus of the masculist gender political effort? Question mark. High schools are much dumber than universities. So it's much more likely that masculist ideas and masculist consciousness will launch in the universities, since that is where a real concentration of young brain power is located. So initial efforts of the masculists need to be in the universities, using the universities as launching pads for getting the media people interested in masculist ideas, so that these journalists and media people spread masculist ideas to the masses, to the millions, so that high schools inevitably come to hear of masculist ideas. Similarly with masculist teachers, who can then preach masculist demands onto female students, scaring them that if they don't FIP up, then they will pay a very heavy price of not getting a man, and hence will suffer greatly as adults. So, as prerequisites, it's clear to the masculists, to the masculist activists, that there is a whole masculist political program that has to unfold. The first step is to spread masculist ideas. These ideas already exist. The creative work has already been done. Masculist ideas and masculist ideology are already in place. The next step in the masculist program is to spread masculist ideas to the millions via the universities and the media. Once there are strong, large and active masculist groups at the universities, they can then reach out to the high schools, making the high schools the political focus of the masculists, since it is at the high schools, and emphasizing, that most of the fluffy, crapper damage is done. The masculist leaders see clearly that to create a FIP society, the high schools need to be the focus of masculist gender politics, since if young women continue to be socialized to be fluffies as adults, expecting to be able to manslave a man, then there will be no FIP society, and the financial massacre of men in the divorce courts will continue. So young women must be masculisted, that is, terrified, that if they don't get off their fat parasitic asses and FIP up, then they will not get a man and be cast out of society, hated and shunned. So masculists need to think about how to set up high school masculist groups in practice. There will be millions of attempts to do this, since there are millions of high schools around the world. Strong, large masculist groups at universities and government-sponsored masculist organizations could have speaker groups who send out speakers to high schools to teach high school students about the basics of masculism and encourage the male students to set up a masculist group in their high school. Then these masculist groups in high schools could form associations to exchange experience, expertise, money, etc. so as to make masculism a fixture in every high school, so as to liberate future generations of males. Women need to be made bi-conscious so that they lose their monoconscious feminazi bitchiness, believing that gender oppression is a one-way street. Masculism needs to become as widely known around the world as is feminism today, so that everyone becomes bi-conscious and learns not to tolerate female manslavery, seeing it as a moral abomination, equivalent to the revulsion felt by the American abolitionists in the 1800s, which eventually led to the US Civil War. Once all these prerequisites are in place, well-established masculist groups will be in every high school, so that high school students and high school teachers will be able to educate young women to FIP up and to play their role in the creation of a FIP society, the main political goal of the Masculists, so as to liberate men from decades of manslavery at the hands of billions of fluffy manslaving parasites and the hated fluffy feminist-dominated divorce courts. Once the divorce courts are men-fared and the para-legislated, the Masculists will be well on the way to achieving their final and fundamental goal of giving men their freedom. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de GARIS. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. Author of the book Masculism, Men's Rebellion Against Being Man-Slaves to Women, an e-textbook of 460 plus masculist flyers for men's studies courses, freely downloadable in Microsoft Word format from my website. Ciao.